Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This month we're taking a closer look at a pretty fascinating cosmic combo. Mercury Retrograde is meeting up with a new moon in Sagittarius.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting pairing. You know how Mercury retrograde is known for throwing a wrench in our plans, communication breakdowns, tech hiccups, all that fun stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it all kicks off on December 1st and sticks around until the 23rd. So buckle up, folks. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
It can definitely feel that way sometimes. But, maybe instead of dreading it, we could look at this retrograde as a chance to slow down, review things, and kind of refine our approach.
I like that. Reframing it as a time for reflection rather than just chaos. But then we have this new moon in Sagittarius happening right in the middle of it all on December 12th, which, as we know, is all about fresh starts, new adventures, and pushing those boundaries.
Exactly. And Sagittarius energy is known for being super optimistic and expansive. So it's like this cosmic push and pull between holding back and leaping forward.
So how do we navigate that? How do we find that balance between caution and courage during this kind of unique astrological event?
Well, for this deep dive, we're turning to an article from Sern. They're an astrology and spiritual guidance blog that always has some pretty insightful perspectives.
Awesome. I'm all ears.
So before we jump into the nitty-gritty, I think it's important to remember that astrology isn't about predicting doom and gloom. It's more about understanding those energetic influences and using that knowledge for personal growth.
Right. It's like a cosmic weather report.
Yeah.
It helps us prepare for the energetic shifts and make the most of those opportunities.
Precisely. So let's start with Mercury retrograde. What should we really expect during this period?
I think the classic examples are things like those accidental reply all emails, the ones that make you want to crawl into your desk and disappear.
Or suddenly remembering a bill you forgot to pay months ago.
Oh, tell me about it. I once booked a flight for the wrong month during Mercury retrograde. Not my proudest moment.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a classic Mercury retrograde mishap. But instead of panicking, what if we saw this as a time to double-check everything, be mindful of our communication, just take things a little slower?
Okay, so that's the Mercury retrograde side of things.
Huh.
But then we have this new moon in Sagittarius happening on December 12th.
Yeah.
What kind of opportunities does that bring to the table?
Well, new moons are all about new beginnings. It's the perfect time to set intentions, plant seeds for the future, and start fresh in a particular area of life.
And with this one being in Sagittarius, we're talking about big dreams, adventurous spirits, and a desire for truth and expansion.
Exactly. Sagittarius energy is all about pushing boundaries, exploring new perspectives, and embracing the unknown. So it's encouraging us to step outside our comfort zones, both physically and mentally.
So we have Mercury retrograde saying slow down, review, reflect, and Sagittarius saying leap forward, explore. It's an interesting tension, isn't it?
It is, and that's where the real magic happens. It's
Yeah.
about finding that sweet spot, that balance between caution and courage.
But how do we actually do that? How do we reconcile those seemingly opposite energies?
Well, it's not about ignoring new opportunities, but rather approaching them thoughtfully and strategically. The article we're looking at today suggests using this period to kind of strategize, do your research, gather the necessary resources, and then really launch into those new ventures when Mercury goes direct.
So it's like a cosmic prep work phase.
Right.
We're laying the groundwork now so we can hit the ground running later.
Exactly. And when it comes to the new moon in Sagittarius, it's about being intentional with those goals. What are you passionate about? What brings you joy? This is the time to tap into that fiery Sagittarian energy and set your sights on something truly meaningful.
It sounds like a great time to revisit those dreams we might have put on hold or those beliefs that might be holding us back.
Absolutely. And here's where things get really interesting. The article breaks down how this whole Mercury retrograde new moon combo might play out for each of the 12 rising signs, which, is a pretty cool way to get some personalized insights.
Now, I know not everyone is familiar with rising signs, so let's do a quick explainer before we dive into that.
Sure. So your rising sign, also known as your ascendant, is basically the zodiac sign that was rising on the eastern horizon at the moment you were born. It's like the mask you wear representing how you present yourself to the world and your initial approach to life.
And for those who don't know their rising sign, you can easily calculate it online using your birth date, time, and location. It's a pretty important piece of the puzzle when it comes to understanding your unique astrological makeup.
Definitely. Now, we won't have time to go through all 12 signs today, but we picked out 3 that we think will resonate with a lot of you based on some broader astrological trends. We're going to be looking at Taurus rising, Virgo rising, and of course Sagittarius rising, since this new moon is happening in their sign.
Sounds like a great place to start. So let's kick things off with Taurus rising. What can they expect from this cosmic cocktail of rewind and refresh?
Well, for Taurus rising, this period is all about revisiting financial themes. Think budgets, investments, and maybe even addressing some old debts that have been lingering in the background.
So it's a good time for those Taurus risings to maybe check their bank statements, review any financial agreements, and just make sure everything's in order.
Yeah, it's like a cosmic audit, a chance to reassess and refine their relationship with money. And, speaking of refinement, let's move on to the next sign on our list, Virgo rising.
They're known for being super detail-oriented and practical. So how might this transit affect their meticulous world?
Well, for Virgo rising, this transit really shines a spotlight on their home family and emotional foundations. It's a time for deep introspection and potentially addressing any unresolved issues or lingering dynamics from the past.
So maybe some old family patterns might resurface, or they might feel this urge to declutter and reorganize their physical space.
Exactly. It's about creating more harmony and stability within their personal lives.
Less about dramatic upheavals and more about those subtle shifts and refinements, which makes sense for Virgo.
Right. Now, last but not least, let's talk about Sagittarius rising. They're getting a double dose of Sagittarian energy with this new moon happening in their sign. So I imagine this transit is going to be particularly potent for them.
It's like their cosmic birthday party, but with Mercury retrograde crashing the celebration. So how does this energetic mix play out for our adventurous, freedom-loving Sagittarius rising friends?
Well, for them, it's all about personal growth, self-discovery, and aligning their actions with their truest desires. They might feel a strong pull to reevaluate their goals, reassess their beliefs, and just kind of redefine their sense of self in the world.
And with Mercury retrograde in the mix, it's about taking those big Sagittarian dreams and refining them, making sure they're truly aligned with their values and long-term vision.
Exactly. This isn't about shrinking their dreams, but about approaching them with wisdom and discernment. They might find themselves revisiting old passions, reviving abandoned projects, or even reconnecting with people from their past who can help them on their journey.
It sounds like a potent time for self-reflection and course correction, even for the typically optimistic and forward-thinking Sagittarius rising.
It is. And it's important to remember that these are just general overviews. Individual birth charts are complex, and a professional astrologer can provide personalized insights based on your unique planetary placements.
Right, this is just a little taste of how this transit might affect these three rising signs, but there's so much more to explore. All right, so we've talked about the what. Now let's get into the how. How do we actually navigate this Mercury retrograde new moon combo in our day-to-day lives?
That's a great question, and honestly, I think the first and most important tip is patience. This is not the time to rush things or force outcomes. Mercury retrograde is notorious for delays, miscommunications, and those unexpected detours. So embrace the slower pace and use it to your advantage.
It's like the universe is hitting the cosmic pause button, giving us a chance to catch our breath and reassess.
Exactly. Use this time to review, revise, reflect. Don't rush into signing any important documents or making major decisions. And oh my goodness, double check everything. Back up your files, just be extra mindful of the details.
Yeah, those details can really trip us up during Mercury retrograde, especially when it comes to communication. Any tips for navigating those potential misunderstandings that tend to pop up?
Oh, absolutely. Choose your words carefully. Be extra clear in your communication. And, reread those emails and text messages before hitting send. It never hurts to take that extra moment to make sure you're conveying what you really mean.
I think we've all experienced that oh no moment after sending a hasty text during Mercury retrograde.
Totally. And if you're feeling frustrated or tempted to engage in heated conversations, maybe take a step back and wait until after the retrograde clears. It's always better to err on the side of caution when Mercury's playing tricks with our communication.
It's a good time to practice those active listening skills and make sure we're really understanding each other.
Exactly. Now remember, amidst all this retrograde slowdown, we've also got that potent energy of a new moon in Sagittarius inviting us to dream big and embrace new beginnings. It's about finding that sweet spot between caution and courage.
So how do we actually reconcile those two seemingly opposite energies?
I like to think of it this way. The retrograde period is the perfect time for planning and preparation. Don't necessarily initiate anything brand new just yet, but allow yourself to brainstorm research, gather the necessary resources for those exciting ventures you want to pursue once Mercury goes direct.
So we're kind of using this time to get our ducks in a row before we launch into action.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Use this time to refine your vision, set clear intentions, and create a solid foundation for your future endeavors.
Makes sense. Now, this might seem counterintuitive considering all the potential travel hiccups, but what about traveling during Mercury retrograde? A lot of people advise against it, right?
Yeah, travel can definitely be a bit more unpredictable during this time. But if you are traveling, just be extra prepared. Double-check those flights, confirm your hotel reservations, pack your patience. Delays and unexpected detours are pretty much par for the course.
And maybe pack a good book or download some podcasts just in case you find yourself with some unexpected downtime.
Always a good idea. Now let's talk about another common Mercury retrograde theme, the resurfacing of things from the past. This could be anything from old friends and exes to unfinished projects or unresolved emotions.
Yeah, the whole X is coming back from the dead thing is a bit of a Mercury retrograde cliche. Is there any truth to that, or is it just an astrological myth?
Well, it's not necessarily about exes literally reappearing, although that can happen. It's more about the themes and patterns from past relationships resurfacing in your current life. Maybe you're noticing similar dynamics playing out, or you're finally ready to address those lingering emotional wounds.
So it's less about rekindling old flames and more about understanding how those past experiences have shaped us and using that knowledge to create healthy relationships moving forward.
Exactly. It's an opportunity for closure, healing, growth. And this applies to all areas of life, not just romantic relationships. Unfinished projects, old dreams you've abandoned, past regrets, they might all pop up asking for your attention.
It's like the universe is giving us a chance to clear out those mental and emotional cobwebs and finally let go of what's no longer serving us.
Beautifully put. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about that Sagittarius new moon's influence on our belief systems. Sagittarius is all about truth-seeking and expanding our horizons, both physically and mentally. How might Mercury retrograde affect our approach to, challenging our existing beliefs?
Yeah, that's a good question. It seems like it would be a time to really examine those beliefs, especially the ones that might be holding us back.
Absolutely. This new moon is encouraging us to question our assumptions, step outside our comfort zones, be open to new perspectives. It's a time to ask those big existential questions and explore different belief systems. However, with Mercury retrograde in the mix, it's not necessarily about making radical changes or completely overhauling our beliefs. Instead, approach this process with a curious and discerning mind.
So more reflection exploration